got a try on that left-hand side. What happened?
Oh, but I'm going up and over and bloody head over biscuit. It wasn't enough stability there for myself, but no, I was busting for a bit of meat this game. It didn't seem to work out.
Hello, cheers, and welcome to the Scrum of the Earth podcast, your show for news, reviews, great interviews, and so much more all about the world of rugby. As always, my name is David Lawrence. I'm an American rugby fan who follows the game wherever I can find it all over the globe. If you'd like to get in touch, I'm on Blue Sky @ofscrum, and you can always just drop a good old-fashioned email to thescrumoftheearth@gmail.com. Well, they say that possession is 9/10 of the law, but we've actually got 100% of her today. I am beyond ecstatic to announce the return of Rachel Law. Rachel, it's truly good for my soul to see your smiling face.
Thank you so much. No, it's wonderful to be back here and super exciting to be talking about all things women's rugby, particularly this week with the World Cup starting. So, no, thank you so much for having me on again.
A certain event is starting. I honestly can't even believe it's 4 days from now. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's mad. I feel like it's one of those ones that you always say, oh, the World Cup next year, and then, oh, the World Cup this year, oh, the World Cup in 4 days' time. So, no, it just seems like I've come around so quickly.
Well, as you may recall, I always try to come up with a law joke every time that you're on the show. But the last time we spoke, I ended up recycling the first one I ever came up with. The problem is when you look up law jokes, what you get is lawyer jokes. And but while I was searching this time, I did find a new one. So, Rachel, what's the difference between a lawyer and a liar?
Difference between a lawyer and a liar? I don't know.
Pronunciation. Well, the first thing I want to touch upon today actually is you doing comms. You were co-commentator for the test Scotland played against Italy at the end of July. How did that come about? You were great, by the way.
Yeah, so actually BBC Alba have asked me to do quite a few games with them. So I think it started with when the Super Six, so the Super Six tournament in Scotland, men's tournament was still a thing. And they were starting to broadcast, they as in being BBC Alba, were starting to broadcast some of their, the Super Six matches. And they said, look, we'd love to get somebody who kind of knows rugby, who knows the teams to commentate. Would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, why not? I'll give it a shot. So started doing a bit for them. And then there was a couple of Scotland games, women's stuff that I'd commentated on because they'd asked me to do. There was a couple of kind of in-person commentary gigs that they wanted me to do as well. And then they just dropped me a message and said, obviously, World Cup warm-up coming up. We're keen to broadcast it. Would you be keen to do the co-coms for it? And I was like, yeah, why not? It's a brilliant way to, I love chatting about rugby. You know me, and it's a fantastic way to chat all things rugby whilst watching it as well.
Yeah. I miss the Super Six. I don't know why they couldn't get that right. One of my rarest rugby possessions, mutual friend Craig Manson sent me a Boromir Bears jersey. So
yes, oh, so good. Yeah, I don't know. The Super Six was really good at kind of bridging that gap in Scotland between club rugby and the kind of Edinburgh and Glasgow side of things. So no, I am sad that they've got rid of it, and it has kind of ruined the club game, so to speak. So whether or not it'll return, I don't know. I hope it does, because it was good at bridging that gap, as I say. But it's sad that it did come to an end, because it was a good way to also broadcast that kind of side of the kind of club game in Scotland as well, and get that out there for people to see.
Yeah, and they put a lot of it out for free. Like, you could look it on YouTube. Like, I was catching a lot of those matches in just different places, and it was just always fun. It was like a icing on the cake of the rugby week.
Yeah, exactly, I know, and it was a decent standard as well. Like, it wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't like a low-level league. It was a lot of the pro boys who weren't getting game time for Edinburgh and Glasgow were coming down and playing in that league, and a lot of the youngsters who were coming up through academies were getting game time there as well. So it made perfect sense in terms of Scottish rugby side of things and how they develop the club game. So yeah, it is sad that it's gone, but fingers crossed something similar will be coming back.
It seems inevitable, but I haven't heard anything either way. But anyway, obviously Scotland had just the 2 tests this summer. A couple of frustrating results. We'll start with Italy. What were your main takeaways from that game? Were you there in person, or were you doing this remotely?
Doing this remotely, so just here in Scotland when I was commentating on it. Frustrating, extremely frustrating, that first game against Italy. Just everything looked so clunky. I guess it hasn't been too long since the Six Nations, so you'd be thinking actually the end of April time to kind of the start of July, middle of July time. It's not that long. A lot of the girls went back and played club rugby, but they've been in kind of pre-season, so to speak, for kind of the last 6 weeks or so as a Scotland team preparing for this World Cup. So everything looked clunky. There was last passes that weren't sticking. The kind of defensive structure looked all over the place. Folk were getting caught high. It just looked not very well oiled. It didn't look like the Scotland team that you'd be expecting to push on into this World Cup. Now, I guess the good flip side of that is that we've hopefully got all of it out of our system, and all of that clunkiness has gone going into the World Cup. But yeah, disappointing, that Italy game. I think it probably takes away a lot of confidence from the girls as well. Coming that close, but just not being able to get the win to go into the World Cup with the bit of the positive that they probably needed.
Yeah. I mean, what did you make of Italy's performance? Did they kind of show you something special, or was it more of a letdown by Scotland?
Do you know, I think more than anything, Italy showed how dangerous their back three can be. I talked a bit about it in the commentary side of things, and we've known from the last few Six Nations tournaments just how dangerous their fullback and winger combinations can be. The speed that they've got, but also their ability to counter-attack is probably so key in that Italian team. Folk exiting, kicking, something that Scotland did not get right at all in that game. Italy, that's Italy's bread and butter. The counter-attack, the speed that they're able to get, the offloads, the in-behind game that they play is brilliant. So I was very, very impressed with Italy, and they'll be pleased with that going into this World Cup. And with the pool that they've got, they'll be pleased with that performance against Scotland.
I think so too. I'm curious, where am I here? By the way, even setting it up this way, saying, okay, we're only going to play 2 tests this summer, and they're both going to be away, that made things a little tougher, especially with the improvement we've seen from Ireland. What did we learn from that loss in Cork? I'm not going to lie, that one kind of hurt. Like 2 tries in the final 13 minutes to steal a win, that felt rough.
Yeah, hard, really, really hard. I think Scotland were probably missing quite a few, and probably the same for the Italy game. They were missing quite a few key players, the likes of your Francesca McGee's, the likes of your Jade Conkles, who didn't play in those tests. And then obviously that Ireland game, you were missing Helen Nelson, who's so instrumental in their organisation, organising the forwards, organising the back line. It was great to see the likes of Hannah Ramsey get a decent amount of time. We saw Beth Blacklock come on and take over that 10 position. But I think frustrating more than anything, I think it's another highlight of how we are often caught short. And I think more than anything, we're can occasionally be good for 60 minutes of a game, and we fall off the face of the earth in the last 10 minutes or so. Now, you're going into a World Cup, you are needing to play 80 minutes of rugby every single game. If you want to progress to those quarterfinals and push on further than that, you have to play 80 minutes of rugby, and that's where notoriously Scotland have struggled. So I think frustrating. Was it a question of fitness? Possibly. The Ireland squad, we know how good and how many of their sevens players that they have involved there. Now, their fitness is going to be incredible. So in terms of that side of things, fitness, I think they switched off a bit. And I think there was a few interesting decisions in that last 20 minutes. So clinicalness is definitely one, and being able to play for 80 minutes is a second learning that Scotland will have taken from that Ireland game.
Kind of losing track of things in the last 20 minutes seems to be, I'm just going to say it, seems to be a characteristic of the Scotland men and the Scotland women. It seems to be endemic. And
I don't know if it's one of those ones that we've not got game management nailed. I think some of it's going to be the fitness, the fatigue, the poor decision making under fatigue definitely comes into play, but also game management, deciding that actually we've got a scrum in our own 22, we have to get the exit right. We have to make making the correct decisions and getting and playing in the right parts of the pitch, taking points when they're on offer. Those sorts of things are notoriously what Scotland aren't good at, and that particularly that last 20 minutes, they have to get those things right if they're going to want to do well in this World Cup.
So you kind of already teed this up perfectly. I'm curious, pundits love to talk about momentum. They say it's difficult to go into a huge tournament like this on the heels of consecutive losses. Is that real for the player? Or how real is that for the players? You sitting at home watching, you can see momentum shifts within an individual game, but does it carry over? How real is that for players?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's a huge part of the mentality behind getting a win and the kind of push on and the confidence builder that is. The only thing I would say that the confidence that Scotland can take from those games is they were that close, albeit you don't get any points for being that close in rugby. You have to win. But getting a gauge of they're there or thereabouts, what can we fix and what do we need to fix going into that game has been good. But yeah, I agree. I do think there will be an element of we didn't do well enough in that game, we didn't do well enough in that game, and that's 2 losses going into this tournament that will have probably deflated that Scotland team, and it's going to be about how they park that mentality-wise, how they build a bit more confidence into their training and go into that first match and actually say, do you know what, we were close there, but we've learned from that, we know what we need to focus on now, we've got the biggest tournament of lots of these girls' lives probably, and we know what we need to do to get there and to perform the way we want to. So I think it's a hard one. How do you prepare for a World Cup without those games? You probably can't. Do you pick easier ones so that it's a bit more of a we've got a win under our belt? Yes, but you played a team who was ranked 16 in the world rather than a team that was ranked 4 or 5. So in terms of that set of things, I think, have I gone off? No, am I back? Sorry.
No, we got you.
There. In terms of that set of things, obviously you want a challenging game, but coaches, management staff have to think, actually, how's that going to impact the girls mentally?
Well, I can't believe this thing starts in just 4 days. Where would you put your level of excitement right now?
Yeah, massively. Do you know what? It's one of those ones that watching the Ireland game, the Italy game, and some of the other teams with their warm-up games, there's such a buzz about everything, and seeing just how far the women's game has come in the last 4 years, 5 years, 3 years technically in terms of the last World Cup. But in terms of the growth of the game, we can feel it in the club game in Scotland. You can see the girls coming through who said, I watched that World Cup on the TV last year. That's why I'm here. I started playing in 2021, 2022. And you see that kind of buzz coming through. So I think the whole world is probably on that kind of rise, and the excitement leading up into this tournament is shown throughout all of that, from club level all the way up to the international stage.
You and I got to talk about it last time. That last World Cup, that final is still got to be top 3 all-time favorite matches. The moment of Ruby Tui grabbing the microphone and leading the sold-out stadium in a song, I get chills every time I even think about it.
It gives you goose pimples. It honestly does. Even just talking about it gives me the chills. What an advert for women's rugby that final was. If you'd have watched no games in that World Cup except that final, you would have been inspired. You would have been teed up. It was just amazing. And
both the semifinals too. It was 3 amazing games in a row.
Honestly, it was fantastic. Such a great advert for women's rugby. So, yeah, I think thinking back to that and thinking about how good it was and how close all the matches were, and I think probably historically we've gone through actually a World Cup where there's lots of matches that aren't competitive. Even sometimes in previous years, the semi-finals haven't been that competitive. But rewind those 4 years and last year's, as you say, semi-finals and final, it could have been anyone. It really could have been anyone. So in terms of that sort of things, I think that just makes it even more exciting, just how competitive the top kind of, 16 teams can be.
It's funny. I wrote in my notes that I am the phrase I picked was stupidly excited for this, and now I feel like I'm double that now just talking to you about it. I'm getting all fired up. It's funny too, because the last time you and I talked about it, we were like, oh, well, because the World Cup was delayed by a year because of COVID, the next one's going to come faster than it seems, and woo, it did.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think it's one of those. I think you as I said earlier, you were like, yeah, a couple of years till the World Cup. Next year's World Cup. Oh, it's this year's World.
It's this week.
4 days time. Yeah, like, I feel like it has just kind of caught up with us all, and you forget how quickly that has come. And it feels like, thinking back to that final, it feels like yesterday that we were watching that.
Yeah.
So in terms of that sort of things, it has come around so quickly, and I think that makes it even more exciting, to be honest with you.
It really does. So I want to look at the pools. Scotland, of course, are in Pool B, so we'll look at that one last. Pool A features my USA Eagles, Australia, Samoa, and a scrappy little island nation you may have heard of called, I don't know, England or something like that.
I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it.
I don't really care. They'll be opening up the tournament Friday night in a stadium that I'm told has quite a funny and apt little nickname, but we don't have to get into that. Rachel, approximately how many miracles would it take for my Eagles to get, what would have to be one of the biggest upsets in history?
Do you know, it's one of those ones, actually, the growth of the game in the United States over the course of the last 5, 6, 7 years has been incredible. Now, a lot of those girls have come to England, are playing in the Premiership over here. In terms of the biggest Instagram star in the world, she's incredible. Honestly incredible. And I watch her videos and I just think, do you know what? She is empowering young girls out there. Her mottos of strength and power, and does it matter if my body looks like this or this, because I can do this with it. And I think in terms of the way that Iona's taken over the world, that in itself has probably given that Eagles team a whole lot of confidence. A lot of the girls have had a lot more exposure to a higher level of rugby, and the games that they've been playing over the course of the last few years, you can see the development. Yes, it would be an upset. England's home turf, home World Cup. In terms of England's probably still feeling hurt from last year, and they'll want revenge in terms of that set of things, and will want to start this competition strong. So yes, I think it would be a challenge for that USA team. Do I think they can do it? Yes, I think there is a small part there. So I think we see an opening match. It's all to play for. It would be the upset of the, and maybe it wouldn't be the upset of the tournament, but I think starting game, it would set the tone for the rest of the tournament. But I do actually kind of hope that they do it, because I think it would be great.
It would be an amazing way to start the tournament. I actually, for a split second, I thought you were going to say they're still smarting from losing to us in the World Cup final back in like 91 or whatever it was.
Oh gosh, yeah. Was it 91? Yeah, 90. Was it 91?
I can never keep it straight. It was the first one.
The first one, yes. 91 it must have been then. Yeah, 91. But yeah, in terms of that, I think, well, you never know. They might still be feeling that back then. I don't know if any of them will still be playing from 91. But...
Well, I think we both know England are probably going to top that pool. But how do you see the other teams faring? Like, for me, that match against Australia seems like the hinge for whether or not we call this tournament a success. Like, we should be able to beat Samoa, so a win against the Wallaroos, that would be kind of a best case scenario for us, yeah?
Yeah, and it's one of those ones, looking at Australia and their kind of form over the course of the last little while, we know how good their their sevens team has been, and historically their sevens team has been what's been driving women's rugby in Australia. Now, in terms of the Wallaroos and how they've kind of progressed over the course of the last, as I say again, 5-6 years or so, they've just been coming on leaps and bounds. The likes of Charlotte Caslick and that sort, who've again been doing similar to what Iona's been doing in terms of that Instagram side of things. And I think the power of social media is brilliant at encouraging younger people to get into the game and pushing positive body image and those sorts of things, which is great for the sport. So in terms of where the Wallaroos have come, let's take a look at their warm-up games. Wales beat them, and then they played them again, and Australia pumped Wales. So the confidence, sorry, it was maybe a bit far, but in terms of the confidence that they'll then be feeling going into this tournament will be fairly high. So I think USA Australia, that's going to be a tightly contested match, and as you say, it's probably going to be the deciders to whether or not this has been a positive outcome for that USA team pushing into those quarterfinals. If they make a quarterfinal, decent. If they make a semi-final, happy days. Is it possible? Yeah, I think it is.
I'm kind of glad we get the England game out of the way first. Like, I don't have much expectations for, an upset in that one, but I feel like then we can just concentrate on the rest of the tournament and be like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's one of those, the kind of nerves and everything that a lot of the girls will be feeling. It's a massive stage that they're playing on. They've obviously been building up to this moment in their careers for the last 4 years, 10 years, whatever it is for individuals. So in terms of that side of things, get that game done, dusted, get the mistakes out, put your heart and soul into it, but get the mistakes out there. And then, as you say, those other two games, Samoa should be, I'm not going to say fairly easy, but it should be a winnable game. And then that Australia game is going to be so tightly contested. Fingers crossed they can do it, but it's one of those, I think is that the last game that they've got?
Yes. Darn, I closed that browser window.
No, it's one of those. I think it is the last game. I think they're England, Samoa, Australia, which I think is the best.
That's the right order. That's what I want. I like this.
Yeah, that's the best order for them to do it, and the confidence that they'll hopefully, the kind of learnings that they'll take from the England game, the confidence that they'll hopefully build in that Samoa game should be a good recipe for success against Australia.
Well, Pool C features the reigning world champion Black Ferns. They're matched up against Ireland, Japan, and Spain. What are you looking for out of this pool?
Do you know, I do think that New Zealand will top that quite spectacularly in terms of the way the Black Ferns have been playing over the last couple of years. I think they've been outstanding, and they deserve to be the best in the world in terms of that side of things. So I think they will be looking to top it. Spain, Japan, I think Japanese rugby has come on leaps and bounds, as I say. All rugby across the world has come on leaps and bounds, but some of the Japanese stuff that we've seen, a good friend of my sister's, Louise Dalglish, did a lot of coaching in Japan, and she said the difference between when she started coaching to when she finished, the money that they've been putting into it has been fantastic. So
wow.
In terms of that side of things, I'm looking, probably New Zealand are going to top that. Ireland-Japan game could be fairly close. Scotland have played Japan quite a few times, and in terms of that side of things, I think that would probably be a tightly contested game. Spain, do you know, Spain have come on leaps and bounds. I'm going to say this about majority of the teams in this tournament. The teams that they were 4 years ago versus the teams that they are now is completely different, and it's probably going to be who is exponentially increased in talent, who's funding-wise has got a load of money pumped into them and kind of progressed at a quicker rate than the rest of the teams, to be honest with you. So I think Spain should hopefully be able to compete. The Japan game will be the one that they're going to target and see. And I probably would say that a successful tournament for that Spanish team would be a win against Japan.
Only 2 spots separate them in the world rankings too. So this is a great opportunity for Spain to grow this program.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think back, actually, Spain have probably been one of those teams that have gone, say, 15, 20 years ago, they've probably went on a little bit of a downwards spiral. They lost a lot of funding. There was times that I remember when Spain were competing against Scotland and they were winning. Spain were winning. So I think they have gone on a bit of a downward spiral. Hopefully now kind of on the up in terms of their performance. And as you say, there are only 2 places separate those 2 teams. So definitely a game for the Spanish team to target.
It's amazing to think you and I were literally talking about the horrible state of the Irish program. There was the thing, remember when the IRFU was getting mad at them for posting pictures of the rats out by the dumpsters where they had to, for their changing rooms? And now they're 5th in the world and well-deserved.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I talked about how good their sevens program was, and obviously there's been so much we've talked a lot about previously about their funding and all the rest of it, and the IRFU, and in terms of the way that they treated those girls 4 or 5 years ago. Is fantastic to see how they've come on. I think things that have helped them a lot is the club games being developed. They've obviously had Celtic Challenge, which has been great for those 2 Irish young teams to come through and be able to kind of showcase what they're able to do, and they've dominated that Celtic Challenge as well. They've been the Wolfhounds won it the past 2 years. So in terms of that side of things, I think that shows you how well the club game in Ireland has progressed. So I think in terms of that side of things, where they were 4 years ago and where they are now puts them in a great opportunity. They should be making those quarterfinals. They may potentially even make a semi-final. So I definitely think that they are hotly contested for this World Cup.
Well, the Ireland team taught me a name I'd never seen before, Aoife Wafer. And of course, they have 2 Aoifes, I think. I have a feeling this is going to be one of those things where her popularity is such that suddenly 9 months from now, there's a bunch of baby girls named Aoife.
In terms of that side of things, honestly, see, I've actually got a friend whose name is Aoife. But when I very first saw that name, I was like, Aoife. Aoife? Nope.
I just waited to hear somebody else say it first. I didn't even take a swing.
It's like, oh yeah, sorry, Aoife, of course.
Of course.
Shovel the vowels together and it should make something like that.
Well, Pool D is really interesting to me. It has France as the clear favorites, but Italy and South Africa can surprise you on their day. And, then we've got Brazil, the lowest ranked team in the tournament at 25th, but they're a team I've had my eye on for a few years now. What's your take on Pool D?
Yeah, so I think obviously we've talked a lot about how good the Italians were in that first game in that warm-up game, against Scotland. We talked about their back 3, their counter-attack, and how dangerous they can be. So, France, they're kind of, they either have a good day or a bad day. And in terms of how they've been performing, they've been good, yes, but I do kind of have my money on Italy potentially throwing up a bit of a storm here in terms of this pool. So I think the France-Italy game will be a cracker of a match. And I do wonder as to whether or not the Italians will be secret ninjas in that game. So I think that'll be a cracker of a match. As you say, Brazil, I'm not going to lie to you, I don't know an awful lot about that Brazilian team. I don't know a lot about. I don't know any of the players. I don't know.
I know their sevens team a lot better than I know this team.
Yeah, and I think in terms of that sort of things, that's been probably quite fundamental. Sevens has been quite fundamental in the development of a lot of these 15s teams. So if that's anything to go by, I'm assuming they're going to have a lot of pace. They're going to be the sort of team who want to get it to their kind of wide channels and exploit teams there. Now, we know South Africa, Scotland have had a few games against them in the last little while. They did a tour to them a couple of years ago. South Africa are such a physical team. Yes. So I think in terms of the way that they're probably fairly similar to the French team in terms of how they play, the kind of physicality and the dominance that they bring around their set piece. So I think in terms of that side of things, we've got 4 teams here who are going to play very different styles of rugby in terms of that physical front up versus the counter attack and the speed on the outside. So I think it'll be very interesting. I do think I've kind of got a little bit of money on Italy potentially nabbing that off France and seeing and seeing how they
well, you make such a good point about Italy, having such a strong counterattack, and they have three teams that kind of tend to make some mistakes sometimes.
Yeah, and I think, can they pounce on that? Can they utilise that? The French team have also got quite a good kicking game, which yes is pretty good in situations where needing to get out of your own 22 versus you're sticking something that's in the air and contestable. But actually, the Italians are great under high balls and they're great on their counter-attack. So France are going to have to be clinical with those exits and with those kicks if they're wanting to do that, because they cannot give Italy any kind of space to play. So I think in terms of that side of things, that game should be a cracking match.
I'm curious, who are some non-Scotland players who you're really looking forward to, seeing in these pool stages? I've certainly got some favorites on my Eagles, but who are some people that you think, might not be household names today, but maybe 4 or 5 weeks from now?
Yeah, I think in terms of, I'll probably start with, I'm going to start with your Eagles. My sister played alongside Georgie Paris-Redding. I just think the work rate of that girl is incredible. She gets around the park, and I think more than anything, she's noticed because she steals ball, she makes hits, she carries hard, she runs fantastic lines. But I also think it's all the work that she kind of does behind the scenes that makes her so good. She's fantastic in terms of her organisation and in terms of her leadership role. She's a brilliant voice kind of on the pitch. So I think definitely in terms of that side of things, I think she'll be key in their success if they are to have any. I'm trying to think.
That's a great shot. I wasn't expecting you to pick an Eagle. I'm all like,
I think in terms of the work rate that, and I think probably anything in terms of her playing at Sale, I think the development in her game over the course of the last 4 or 5 years has been outstanding. So I think she's a fantastic player, and I think her kind of leadership role, she's obviously just come back from ACL injury. So in terms of that side of things, she'll be looking to put on a great performance and almost dominates the team. We know we have the kind of we always do a kind of Six Nations team of the week and what have you. I'm imagining we're going to have a World Cup team of the week. So in terms of that side of things, I think she'll be kind of looking to push into that over the course of the tournament. So I think that'll be fantastic. Let's think in terms of that Italian team. I like Beatrice Rigoni at 13. I think she has a lot of experience, but she's one of those players who is so exciting to watch because you don't know what she's going to do next. Sometimes I think she doesn't know what she's going to do next. So I think she can be a bit of a loose cannon in terms of that side of things. But I think, she'll be definitely at the forefront of that Italian attack. We saw her in that game against Scotland with her kind of chip and chases, the kind of ability for her to read a game, spot space, identify space, and utilize that and put her teammates into space is fantastic. So I think she'll kind of be key to watch in terms of the Italian team. Let's go.
One more.
Let's go for. I'm trying to think if we know any kind of young guns in any of the teams. I'm trying to think if there's any French young guns that I like the look of. She's not really a young gun, but I always think she's good. Emmeline Gross, I think the kind of her ability, I don't know what her background in terms of how long she's been playing rugby and if she was ever involved in any other sport, but she's a naturally very good sports person. She's such a balanced runner. Again, her counter attack, I think, is brilliant. She's a real threat with ball in hand, and give her an inch of space, she's got the speed and she's going to take it. I think she'll be key in terms of that French attacking threat. On the flip side of that, she's fairly solid in her defence. You know that she's going to make those tackles, those covering tackles. So yeah, I think, I don't actually know how old she is. She's probably not a young gun. She's probably what,
31 maybe?
31, 30, yeah, something like that, I think. So in terms of that side of things, I think her experience to it, but also this won't be her first World Cup. She'll have been involved in the last few. So I think in terms of that side of things, she'll probably bring a decent bit of experience to that French team. But you know that she's going to put in a solid performance for that French team.
Well, we saved it for last. Pool B, you've got Scotland, you've got Wales and Fiji, but you've also got the other red and white monster, Canada. Rachel, if you're the coach, how are you approaching the fixture against Canada?
I think we have to be clinical. We know how good the Canadians are set piece wise. They are so good. Their scrummaging, their line out is always very, very good. In terms of their counter attack, their kicking ability, I think they're one of those teams who, yeah, they are always so clinical, and I think it's a game that we have to target. We have to target all of the games. I think it's one of those that Canadian game is going to be the toughest game in the pool stages. And I think it's about how we get all the little bits from the Italy game and the Ireland game right, those little last passes, where we need to attack. We have to get outside that 13 channel. We know how dominant the Canadians are. We know how good they are around the breakdown. They know how good they are jackling. So in terms of that side of things, I think we need to be smart about how we play against them. And I think we have to avoid getting into a rut of playing the game that they want us to play, which is often probably how the Canadians do so well. They manipulate teams into playing a game of rugby that they want them to play, and how we kind of get around that, and how we kind of play a game that doesn't feed into their bread and butter in terms of them getting over the ball and kind of playing the game that they want us to play. You've got, I'm trying to think, Corrigan, there's a perfect one. Alicia Corrigan, how good she is at hunting down tens, at getting over ball, getting turnovers. And I think what we probably found in that Scottish attack against the Italians and against that Ireland team is we got over the game line and we got in behind them, but we got isolated and we didn't get the support there quick enough. The likes of Corrigan is going to be over that in no time. So I think it's definitely going to be one of those games that we have to be clinical. We have to get our set piece right, our kind of our strike moves off those set piece right. We have to facilitate and make sure that we get numbers there in support. And yeah, we're going to have to bring our A game if we want to win that one.
It's funny. I find it so easy to hate England, but I cannot hate Canada, no matter what. I just love that team.
Do you know, and in terms of that side of things, they play an exciting game. They have everything. As I say, they're Delika and Emily Tatutsi, in terms of their ball carriers, their ability to kind of front up and be dominant, but also their ability to play fast flowing rugby is incredible. So I think it will be such a challenge. As you say, you can't hate them because they are such a good team, and they play exciting rugby. So in terms of that side of things, that'll be a game that Scotland, as I say, have to be on their A game if they're wanting to win.
Well, Scotland and Wales are practically neck and neck in the world rankings right now, but both programs have been in a bit of turmoil. Rachel, I don't know how much you can talk about it. Some stuff came out in the last few weeks about problems in the Scottish program. Are you able to touch on that at all?
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot of issues at the minute surrounding contracts, surrounding the security of the contracts for a lot of those girls, surrounding the departure of Brian Eason, head coach for the last 6 years or so. So in terms of that, these girls are going into the biggest tournament of their lives, not knowing if they're going to have a job after it, and not knowing who's going to be the head coach of the team. So that has produced a lot of disrupt to the build up to this tournament, to the pre-season, whether or not that's come into play, seeing the performances in those first 2 games, and just the confidence that the team has kind of lost in terms of the uncertainty of the future. I think for definite, it's not the right way mentally for these girls to be preparing for the biggest games of their life. So yes, there's been a lot of disrupt. I'd like to hope that the voices of the girls, Rachel Malcolm, Rona Lloyd, Helen Nelson, who have been standing up and saying, actually, this has been not great in terms of the lead up to the biggest tournament, and we need the SRU to turn around and say, we've got your backs, we'll provide everybody with a contract. We already know who's going to be the head coach, and we promise that we're going to support you throughout the next few years post this World Cup. So yeah, I think in terms of that set of things, it's not been the best prep mentally for the girls to come into, as I say, the biggest tournament of lots of their international careers, and still having that kind of looming over them.
Sometimes it feels like the SRU is like following around the WRU and learning all their bad ideas.
Yeah, I think, and you know, it's one of those ones that the SRU have made some brilliant decisions over the last however long, but they've made some absolutely terrible decisions. The backing of women's rugby, we take one step forward in terms of our progress with the game, and then we take 5 steps backwards in terms of the next decision that's made. So we're still so far behind the likes of England, the likes of New Zealand, the likes of Canada, and the likes of the French. And it's one of those ones that we need to continue to have the support and the backing of the SRU if we are going to get to the point where actually we can compete with these big teams, because we have the funding, the support, the job security that all of these players down south and across the water have. So yeah, as you see, the SRU haven't been great over the course of the last few years at instilling confidence into these girls and making sure that the prep is the best that they can have.
Well, we already talked about momentum, but what about just bad vibes? Can bad vibes derail a tournament like this before it starts?
100%. And I think Rach Malcolm in her latest chat with the media highlighted that who wants to go into more than anything putting their professional careers this is the biggest tournament for a lot of these girls. This might be the only World Cup that they go to, and I think the not knowing is a horrible thing. They are going out there and playing for their country and trying to put in decent performances week on week. And as I say, not having that's the kind of security of knowing if they have a job in 2 months' time is horrible for them. And I think a lot of the media coverage of it is probably not great either. You scroll, you open Facebook, Instagram, it's the first thing that you're seeing, and that can't be a confidence builder to these girls at all. And I think the comparison of it all is on the flip side. All these other teams have just announced this, that, and the other thing for their contracts. They're doing this, they're putting that amount of money into it, they're doing that. And I think it's often one of those ones that you sit back and you go, goodness me, how are we meant to perform on this stage when we've not even got that?
Yeah, it seems more damning in contrast.
Yeah.
Well, on paper at least, Scotland should beat both Wales and Fiji, but I'm picturing those games being really close. If Scotland do find ways to win over both those teams, what do you think their keys will be?
Yeah, and in terms of that side of things, I think touched on it in terms of that Welsh team and the confidence that they'll have taken from their win against Australia a couple of weeks ago, the confidence that they'll have taken over how the kind of Welsh game has grown. They've obviously got Bristol Bears not far from them, Gloucester Hartpury. So in terms of their girls, they've actually been getting more of them playing in that English Premiership and competing at that higher level, taking it back into that Welsh camp and kind of driving it through. In terms of how that game is going to go, it's going to be massive. It will be probably the decider for both of those teams as to whether or not they've had a successful World Cup, in terms of kind of stats and things behind it. The games that they've played, having a quick look in terms of the games played against each other. They've played 36 games against each other. Wales have won 21 of those. Scotland have won 15. Their kind of biggest winning margin, Scotland's biggest winning margin, 28 points. Wales' biggest winning margin, 36 points. In terms of that set of things, let's look back to the last World Cup. These two sides met each other and Wales came away with the win, 18 points to 15. As you say, it's going to be tight in terms of that contest, and Scotland have got to be extremely clinical if they're wanting to come away from that game with a win. In terms of then having a look at that Fiji team, they are so physical. We know these Islander teams and the way that they play and the kind of loose style of rugby that they play.
It can be so painful because you make one mistake and boom, 7 points. It's you blink.
Again, it's one of those ones. Clinical is going to be key in Scotland's play, but also physicality. And I think that's something that Scotland have probably struggled with. Again, against that Welsh pack as well. We know how big the Welsh pack are and in terms of their ball carrying ability. So against both of those teams, Scotland have got to front up, both in defence and attack, and be a lot more physical and dominate the two teams if they're going to want to come away with the two wins that would see them go into potentially quarterfinals and where they probably deserve to be, but they have to, on the day, get that performance right.
If things do go well and Scotland end up, let's say they're 2-1 at the end of the pool stages, who will have been the MVP? Like, who needs to have a top performance for Scotland to succeed?
I talk a lot about counter-attack. I think in terms of Scotland's game and how they play, there's the classics. There's the Emma Orrs of the team who are so solid in that centre, in that midfield, both in defence and attack. Her counter-attack ability is so good. The way that she spots space and snakes through it. And then you've got the likes of Francesca McGee and Rona Lloyd. The pair of them will finish anything from next to anywhere. Rona Lloyd, with her pace, she is so unbelievably quick. And it's one of those ones that there'll be lots of chat around who's quickest in this tournament in terms of that set of things. So she'll definitely be up there in terms of wanting to get her name on that scoreboard. Francesca McGee, key in terms of her try scoring ability. She's such a level runner. Her footwork is brilliant. Her fend is brilliant. So she'll definitely be key. And then bringing it to those forwards, Evie Gallagher, Rachel McLaughlin are probably my two who are going to be key in that Scottish back row. Evie Gallagher steals so much ball, but she's also on the flip side of that such a strong ball carrier. She'll get Scotland out of the danger zone, out of that 22, off scrums, line out. She'll carry hard. She'll get over the game line and she'll get Scotland that momentum. And then you've got Rachel McLaughlin. In terms of her tackling ability, she hits everything. Her work rate is fantastic. Her previous sport was judo, and you can see that in the way she plays. She was a Scottish judo champion. So in terms of her groundwork and the way her ability to get off the ground, but also her kind of upper body strength, her grapple strength, her ability to hold players up, she's so key in that Scotland defence. So for me, those sort of four players, Emma Orr, Francesca McGee, Evie Gallagher and Rachel McLaughlin are going to be key in Scotland getting success against both Wales and that Fijian team.
Scottish judo, that's not two words I ever expected to hear in that order.
No, in terms of that set of things, no. But yeah, Rachie was brilliant back. You know, she was such a late bloomer into rugby, and I guess there's a lot of crossover in the sports in terms of the physicality side of things. So you can see she's also just a little angry. You get her rallied up, and she comes at you. So in terms of that side of things, you can see why she was so good at judo.
Well, that was a great list of sort of Scotland's greatest hits. Give me like maybe a younger player that I'm not too familiar with yet that you're keeping an eye on for this tournament.
So for me, it has to be Hannah Ramsey. She obviously only got her first cap in these warm-up games. She's been involved in the Scotland team as a day trainer, is what we called them, during this year's Six Nations. Her flourish and her kind of moment of standout probably came from our Celtic Challenge. She played for Edinburgh in the Celtic Challenge last year and this year. She got a lot more game time under her belt this year, and her ability to identify a gap but put someone through it is fantastic. She reads the game well. Her kicking game is fairly good. And obviously you've got a workhorse of Helen Nelson, who's dominated that Scotland 10 jersey for the past however long. So in terms of that side of things, it's so exciting to see a bit of young talent coming through, who's going to be hopefully fairly key in this Scotland team's success over the course of this tournament.
That's a great shout. Rachel, this has been amazing. It's so great to be back in touch and to catch up. Before I let you go, though, we do need to do our predictions for pool toppers. I think we both see it going chalk, right? England, Canada, New Zealand, and France. Any upsets of those top ones?
Do you know what I mentioned? The Italy one. I don't know what it is about this Italian team that I just seen a bit of spark to them. The French team are always notoriously good. In terms of that set of things. Another thing that's going to be so key is obviously this tournament is in England, the previous tournament being in New Zealand. A lot of these European teams probably wouldn't have had the travelling support in New Zealand that they're going to have in
great point.
I talk a lot about that 16th man and that set of things. Now, a lot of those European teams are actually going to go, do you know what, we're going to have the travelling support. It's not that far to come to England. So there's going to be England, Scotland, France, Italy, Wales, Ireland. All of them are probably going to have a lot of travelling support. So I'm going to say I probably will need to stick with my England, my Canada, my New Zealand, and my France for topping those pools.
I know what you mean. Like France seem the most vulnerable, but I just can't see it.
Wait and see. I think it's one of those that the way that the Six Nations game panned out, that Italian team put on a decent performance against France, and I don't know. There's just something about this Italian team, and watching them in that warm-up game against Scotland, they had a bit of a spark about them, and I do think they'll take a lot of confidence going into this tournament. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they perform.
This is when I put on my like conspiracy sports hat. I'm like, wait a sec. It's not going to go. There will be an upset, right? Like there's never going to not be any upsets. So this is the one that kind of has the whiff.
Yeah, and you know what? It's one of those ones that I touched on it previously. In previous tournaments, there probably has been games that have been runaway games, and it's been, you know that England are going to put 50 plus points on that team. You know that the French are going to put 50 plus points on that team. I think in terms of this, the way that the women's game has gone, all of these matches are going to be so much more competitive than they were 4 years ago. So I think there's bound to be upset. There's going to be teams that are going to come out there and go, do you know what? Yes, I'm playing England, but do you know what? I'm going to give that a good crack. And I think that there will definitely be some upsets in there. And I'm excited to see which of them are. I'm hoping Scotland can do it. Whether or not they're going to have the guts to beat that Canadian team, I don't know. Can your USA team put on a good performance opening against England?
Do you see us getting runners up in Pool A?
I think on a good day, yes, I think they should beat that Wallaroos team. You've watched the Wallaroos, yes, they've developed over the course of the last 4 years in terms of their club rugby, in terms of the way that the structure of their club rugby has gone, in terms of their sevens program, driving that 15s program. They've definitely improved, but I think they can have their bad days. They had a bad day against Wales a couple of weeks ago. So in terms of that, if USA bring their A game and Australia bring their B game, I can 100% see the USA taking that second place spot in Pool A.
What about Pool C? Can Japan or Spain surprise Ireland and take that second place?
Yeah, and I think Japan are probably the closest to probably doing that. I think that Spanish team, they've got a few sparks within them, but I don't think they're going to be good enough to beat that Ireland team.
Yeah.
Japan, 100%. In terms of the way that as I say, the club games developed over there, there's quite a few of their players have come over to England to play in the Premiership and kind of push on and develop their own individual games. So yeah, I think in terms of that side of things, I do think, again, on a good day for Japan and a poor day for Ireland, 100% Japan could take that second place, which is so exciting.
It really is. Pool D, by the way, wouldn't it be cool if Brazil shocked the world and nabbed that second spot? I'm not predicting that, but that would be pretty neat.
It would, and it's one of those ones, as I say, I probably regrettably don't know a huge amount about that Brazilian team. Could this be the time where we actually see one of those Brazilian players stepping up and actually saying, do you know what? I am at this level. I am able to compete at this level. And we might be turning around and saying that actually one of those players is one of the best players in this tournament. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what they can bring. Do I think they can do it? Probably not, based on their world ranking. What are they,
25th?
25th in terms of that side of things. So coming up against this French team, coming up against the Italians, and coming up against South Africa, that's going to be a challenge. I'm excited to see what they can bring to the table.
I think we both feel like France are the most gettable, but in the end, it's going to be France and Italy. Like, they're going to be the top two.
Yeah. I think in terms of that side of things, South Africa have looked good, but again, I just don't think that exponentially they've been as good in their development over the course of the last 4 years.
And like you were saying earlier, I'm not convinced they have 80 minutes in them.
No, and a lot of it, they're a very physical team. So I do think in terms of the first 20 minutes, yes, they can be dominant in that physicality. But again, their fitness is not going to be up to 80 minutes of rugby. So I think, as you say, that's where they will struggle and where they have previously struggled. So, yeah, I think in terms of that side of things, France are probably the most gettable with that Italian team. So I think it'll be interesting to see. I wouldn't want to rule out Ireland either. I really wouldn't. Obviously, they're in the pool with defending champions New Zealand, but based on their form, as you say, they're fifth in the world.
They did beat the Black Ferns.
Yeah. So in terms of that side of things, could they do it again? Possibly. Yeah, I think it's going to be exciting. It really is.
Well, this is truly England's cup to lose. They are the clear favorites. They have home advantage. They've looked in top form lately, but that means a ton of pressure. And I'm told by the optimists in my life that England are historic choke artists. Rachel, look into your crystal ball and tell us, who is winning this World Cup?
I think, as you say, everybody's eyes are on England. As you say, the home advantage that they have got, the form that they've built over the course of the last 4 years, the revenge that they will want to get from last year. I think all of that
the fan base is rabid.
Yeah, and I think in terms of that set of things, the fuel for them is going to be massive. It's theirs to lose. I do think that it's so hard. And I knew, do you know what? I've been thinking all week. I was like, I know you're going to ask me this question. I still don't think I've come to a proper decision. I'm gonna have to say England. I am. I'm gonna say England for the win, but I think it's going to be an England Canada final.
That would hurt even more to see England win over Canada. That'd be rough. It's interesting. So over the last years, I've had a similar conversation with multiple people, including like Philip Petuddy. It was nice enough to come and talk to me. And Canada is one of the top teams in the world. I think, what are they, number 3 right now? Maybe even number 2. But they're not professional. And my question has always been, if Canada wins a World Cup without a quote professional unquote team, is their governing body going to say, well, we don't have to do anything about this. This is, why would we throw money at a system that's already working? Philip Petuddy's take was, no. If that happens, then they'll say to themselves, wow, look how good our program is without money. Let's throw some money at it and see what happens. I have a hard time picturing that. What do you think it would mean for the program if Canada won this?
Yeah, and I think both you and Philippa have I think it would be so difficult, and I think until it happens, we probably won't know what their governing body is going to do. I'd like to think that they would be, actually, look how good we have been, let's throw a load of money at it and see if we can continue to push on. They're second in the world at the minute in terms of their world ranking, which just shows how good their form has been. And a lot of the kind of, I don't know what club rugby in Canada is like. I don't know what the leagues are like. And in terms of that, as you say, they are not professionals. And I think to show on the world stage that they don't get paid to do this, yet they can compete against people whose jobs it has been to be rugby players for the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years, probably in England's case, if not longer, they're able to compete. Imagine what they could do if they did have a bit of funding and a bit of money behind them. And imagine what that could do for the club game in Canada and kind of push on. And probably imagine what it could do for the male game in Canada as well, in terms of that set of things, dragging each other up. So I'd like to hope that a governing body would turn around and say, do you know what, we're going to stick a load of money into that and see where we can go. And fingers crossed that they do that, and that's where we end up.
Rachel Law, you are simply incredible. Thank you so much for coming back on the show. It's so lovely to get to chat and get your insights and your humor. You're one of my favorite guests of all time, and I really appreciate your time.
No, thank you so much, David, for having me back on. You know me, I love chatting about rugby, and Women's World Cup side of things, super exciting. And thank you so much for everything that you do in terms of publicising the women's game and getting the reach out there. So thank you, and thank you so much.
Maybe we catch up again after Canada have finished beating England 42-12, I would say, in the final.
Woo, that's bold. Okay, 42-12. I'm going for 1917.
Oh, that would be so rough. I don't know if I'm getting up the next day after that.
No, me either. But I think, we knew it was. Yeah, we'll see. But that's what I'm going with.
As this thing goes on, England is going to feel that pressure that people want them to choke. They're going to feel it.
And it's one of those ones that is notoriously, I don't know if it's just because I'm Scottish and it's always been, oh, we hate the English. But I think in terms of that side of things, because they have it all. They really do. In terms of their contracts, in terms of their premiership, in terms of the way that the game is, they are at the forefront of women's rugby. And I think a lot of jealousy comes into that. We don't want them to do well because we're jealous of what they have. So I think it's fantastic, and I will continue to support women's rugby as a whole. But can we get these other countries, like the Canadians, like the Scots, like the Eagles, to turn around and say, do you know what? Yes, you might be the best team in the world, but we can compete at that level on that world stage and put in a bloody good performance. So
I got to talk to the New Zealand pundit Alice Soper, and the sort of metaphor, the way she looks at it, I thought was so brilliant. She said, like, except for England, other nations, every 4 years they set up a little pop-up stand and say, okay, this is us. This is us now. Whereas England have a brick and mortar store that's been open for a decade.
Yeah. And that's a great analogy and a way of putting it in terms of that side of things. We always have envied the way that England have done it over the course of the last however long. And as I say, they've been at the forefront of it for years and years and years. So yeah, it would be nice to knock them off that top perch and hopefully be the driving force for getting more money and more opportunities for the rest of us.
Rachel, for me, your word is always law. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, David. And yeah, I look forward to doing this post World Cup.
Lovely.
And we can talk about how right we were.
Rachel, cheers. Talk to you soon and be well.